Welcome to Unleash Leadership, the podcast where bold leaders and changemakers come together to share their stories, strategies, and insights for creating a lasting impact on society. Karla Blanco is your host. For over 28 years, she has been navigating the complexities of the corporate and government worlds, a journey that's taught her that authentic leadership isn't just about climbing the ladder. It's about lifting others as you rise. Along the way, she uncovered the unwritten rules that drive success, the ones no one tells you about, but that can define your career and legacy. On this podcast, she'll sit down with extraordinary guests from around the globe, leaders, visionaries, and innovators who are leaving their mark on the world. Together, they'll explore their journeys, uncover their tips and tricks, and dive into the challenges they've overcome to inspire you to excel in whatever you're facing. Whether you're climbing the corporate ranks, building your personal brand, or leading change in your community, this podcast is your space to grow, learn, and unleash the leader within. So grab a notebook, get ready to take action, and join us on this journey to unleash our leadership potential. Before we dive in, make sure to follow Karla on Instagram, LinkedIn, at Karla Blanco Coach, Karla with a K, and YouTube at Karla Blanco Show to stay connected and get even more leadership tips and updates.
With us today, Christopher Pavese, organizational, personal, and professional development executive leader, thought leader, world-class communicator, and process improvement professional. Throughout his career, he has become proficient at planning, developing, and implementing robust strategies with focus on improving process efficiency and accomplishing profitable outcomes. Utilizing proven expertise in accelerating business performance and driving completion of challenging operations through effective servant leadership, focused on overall procedures and creating and executing robust strategies. He enjoys optimizing employee skills as well as establishing high performance organizational cultures by organizing and implementing effective training programs. He has demonstrated an ability to identify and resolve potential issues, assure high levels of quality, and attain maximum customer satisfaction. Welcome, Christopher. Thank you for joining us on
Absolutely. Thank you for
Unleash
the invite.
Leadership. It's a pleasure for me to have you here. You have an amazing leadership story, and I would like you to start sharing how you came from engineering to serving companies
Yes.
and, well, consulting in general. So,
Right.
share with us about your story.
Yeah. So it really was a stumbling upon. So after 33 years in the industry, I had the opportunity to retire early. And the first opportunity after retirement was for a firm that was looking at a merger and acquisition. And it was really an insight into looking at the different disc profiles we talked about. And immediately I had identified that the problem with their business was that they had a very strong, dominant personality who would not allow for much change, which was interesting because they were going through a merger and acquisition, which requires a ton of change. And then the next opportunity was for another consulting gig. And then next thing I know, this is becoming a full-time thing where more and more engineering firms are asking me to come in and utilize my master's in organizational leadership, which I had paired with my engineering degree, and used it for people management, but never for consulting. And so then that's when I started Gimba Services.
That is really exciting. And share with us about DISC because
Yes.
many people may not know what is DISC about.
So DISC is a human personality test that then it gives indicators for your type of personality and how you will react in a particular setting. So one of the character traits is D for dominance, and that's the character trait I was just talking about, the over domineering type. There's three other ISC, And then there's a hidden one, which are the ISC strong with a D as a minor, which is a hidden D. And that's where I am. I'm on the, you know, the I, the S, and the C stronghold, and I'll let others lead. And then if no one else steps up, then I'll jump in and say, okay, let me show you the way. So there's
That's
actually
interesting.
five. That's a hidden secret.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I didn't know about it. So thank you for sharing about that. And what inspired you to really get into the human side? Because you
Yeah.
are an engineer,
Right.
but you also have a organizational development skills and your masters. So
Yes.
can you share more about why did you get interested on that?
Yeah, so it was during that first assignment where I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to consult on what it takes for this firm to then integrate into the corporate settings. So it was essentially a sole proprietor. They were looking at joining a much larger firm with some structured human resources and training regiments. And I started to listen to John Maxwell. And so, some of the times I would have a 50-minute commute, sometimes I'd have a 4.5 hour commute to some of the offices. And it was through that time that I started to hear the message that, hey, you could be a trainer. And so I looked into Maxwell and joined the Maxwell Certified Leadership Training Program. And then that's where it sort of paired together. So the organizational leadership master's is from a university that practices servant leadership. And John Maxwell, having a religious background, it's all about servant leadership. So those two marry each other very well. And then that's when again, like I shared with you, that's when we birthed Gimba Services in 2024 to then give back. How do we serve others? And so, in particular, with engineering, how do we serve others to ensure that we're providing that middle management or that people leader? Oftentimes, the doers get promoted because they're the doers the best, but then they don't know how to lead the people. And so they end up becoming the worst leaders and chasing off some great talent. There's an interesting statistics in engineering that was performed by the National Society of Professional Engineers that says in 10 years, and this is 2 years old, so now in 8 years, there will be a shortage of 145,000 professional engineers, which means people are going to be fighting for these qualified engineers. There's going to be a shortage of talent. So if these firms want to survive, if they want to grow, they can't chase off this talent. So there is a need, and that's probably why the phone's ringing, because people are wanting this need to focus on, okay, how do we develop these engineers have traditionally been very excellent at doing their job to become people leaders, to move out of that subject matter expert, that doer mindset into the leader mindset. Sorry.
It's so important to have that holistic view and connecting those two skills in order to lead others.
Yes.
And do you recall any mentor or coach that inspired you?
Oh, many, many. And I keep
Uh,
dropping this name on John Maxwell, but before that, even, yeah. So in the organizational leadership training, there's, books, and I have libraries full at home, of course, because, as you know, you buy your books in college. But some of them that really jump out to me are Travis Bradbury with Emotional Intelligence, and then Simon Sinek, who is
yes.
huge on podcasts. Of course, everybody knows that. And to use some of his sort of non-traditional theories and thoughts and different mindsets is great because I can then reference someone like that that's not in our community and say, how do we apply that? And how do we bring people out of, again, that traditional engineering, typical introverted mindset into an open mindset of being open to new ideas. So we practice not only lean principles, which works into the organizational development side of the business.
Mhm.
And then we can also utilize that within the personal and professional development side of how do I bring this person up again from an individual contributor into a people leader. um, some people don't want that. Some people enjoyed, I want my 8 to 5. I want to turn the cell phone off. I don't want to worry about any of the human resources issues. And not saying that there isn't a path for them. But the people leader is not their path. And so we need to identify that early. So not only identifying their personality traits within the DISC assessment, but also talking to them. And that's what it really comes down is talking and listening to individuals. What do you want? What's your career path? Let's identify that roadmap of what it looks like in a 3 to 5 year development plan. So to tie in back with those inspirational, I think a lot of it comes from that servant leader mentality of listening and getting the grassroots from the voice of the customer. Yeah.
That
And so
goes.
in this case, the customer is our employee.
Yeah.
So we need to listen to our employee. And then that in turn is going to increase our customer satisfaction, which in this case is our employees. Our employee satisfaction scores or our culture will go up because we're listening for that
It
feedback.
is so important. And actually, there is a study from Gallup
Hmm.
on the state of workforce, global workforce. And they said that they found that just 23% of global workforce is really engaged. And that has an impact on our global GDP, on productivity
Hmm.
of $8.9 trillion cost for not having people engaged. So it's really important to provide those tools to leaders. But also, I'm thinking that even those that decide to be individual contributors, they can lead from their seats. So leadership skills are so
Right.
important to connect with each other and create solutions. Are there any challenges that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think the first challenge is the understanding or definition of a leader. So John Maxwell says a leader is a person who has influence. And so just to your point there, is if you choose not to be a people leader, that does not mean you're not a leader. So I highly encourage folks as I'm tutoring them through the development of becoming a professional engineer is you can still become a subject matter expert. There's something to attain after you get your professional engineering license. You can become a subject matter expert where you're still an individual contributor, but you're a leader in knowing that subject better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to lead the people, but you can lead the knowledge and the dissemination of that knowledge amongst the team. The second challenge is then finding where do I let go? So I'm a professional engineer, I'm accomplished, I did these wonderful things with the projects. I may even consider myself the best at running those projects. But now I need to bring somebody else up. And at what point do I hand it off and trust and let them make those mistakes? And so another word for mistakes is learning from your loss or learning
Mhm.
from um, your failures,
Mhm.
and not to be scared or not to fear those failures, but to embrace those failures as opportunities to learn. And what lessons can I gain? The only true failure is one that you don't learn from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you don't grow.
Yeah. So challenges, there's many. There's
Ye-
many challenges.
Well, and that's the beauty of sharing what challenges we have faced because people can learn from those.
Yeah.
And as well, I we keep bringing John Maxwell, but he is an amazing mentor for all of us.
Yes.
And as he mentions, leaders help others, so
Hmm.
really help bring more leaders into the equation. So we
Right.
create leaders, we support leaders to grow, that leaders growth.
And I think our greatest challenge is probably the mindset.
Mm.
I think anyone would agree that the hardest challenge for any consultant or any mentor is getting the other person's mindset right. And
Yes.
and we have to have the patience. We have to have the patience to allow them to go that journey to come over to the right mindset, which is I want to share with others. So in my example earlier of knowing when to give up is when you have the mindset that it's okay for them to make a mistake or to fail, because in the end you're going to be able to reflect on that of the lesson that they could then take away from it, which helps them then develop the mindset that failure is not a bad thing. Failure is a good thing.
Well, that's great, but it's hard, really.
It
And
is.
how do you strengthen that self-awareness on yourself as a coach? Because
Oh yeah.
it's a lot of.
Yeah, we'd all like to say, as we think back, you just woke up with it, but it's not true. It was
No.
through lots of work, lots of, listening, lots of reading, building up that library and self-reflection, and so you have to go through something, traumatic in your life and then reflect and what lesson did I learn from that? And so my personal struggle story was I had run for public office and was on stages and raised a lot of money, but we didn't win the election. And so to put yourself through that, the online scrutiny and the bullying and everything else, but then to say, okay, what did I glean from this? What did I gain from this? Not only the networks, and of course, like I said, the fact that I could prove that I could raise the money and I could run a platform and that type of thing, but was the strength in recovery.
Yes.
And so that's what I've really been working on within myself is turning that, again, that loss or that failure into a lesson learned.
That resilience,
Yes.
strengthening resilience
Yeah.
is that
So if
pivot.
we throw another author out there, it would be Patrick Lencioni,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm very much described as the T or tenacious.
Yes. I really like that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for this platform.
I really appreciate you coming. And to close, I would like two things to share with us about what Unleash Leadership means to you, and then share with the audience how they can connect with you.
Okay. So unleash leadership to me means again not holding back and allowing others to grow, not only under you but around you. So there's with that mind shift change of jealousy is you're not jealous of someone else, you're proud of them, you're proud of their accomplishments, right? And so one of the things that I try to instill upon anyone is to treat everybody as though you want them to treat you, which is the golden rule. But if you've ever had the experience to onboard someone who then eventually became your manager, but imagine what happens if that person then becomes the CEO. If you treated that person bad, you're in trouble, right? Bad enough that they're your manager, but now what happens if they're the CEO, right? So I always, want to instill that golden rule. And then how to connect with me is gimba-services.com, and it's gimba-services.com, and it's GEMBA. And Gimba is the Japanese term for the place, and it's translated into English as the place where value is created.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so my services are to go into firms and provide value by these do it services and going in and providing multiple services, everything from learning and management systems, safety training, people, professional and organizational development gaps, and then building out platforms and doing some coaching and mentoring training.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yes.
And actually, I will share all the links with the audience so that
Perfect.
they can connect with you. Really
Okay.
appreciate your time and looking
Yes.
forward to connect with you soon.